And that's why I, with my last two books, the reason the subtitle is Facts and Fiction is because I take all of this information about the New World Order and separate it and really look at what are the sources. What's the source of this? What's the credibility of that source? Where's this coming from? What's an allegation, a distortion, an exaggeration, a complete fabrication? Because they're trying to muddy the system, is trying to muddy the waters, as we've been discussing, so that people get confused when they're, you're an expert. A lot of this audience is very familiar with this material, but new people will get easily confused with phony information. We can get into hal-Turner's Amero hoaxes. And so that's why I've...
Yeah, let's talk about agent provocateurs, COINTELPRO, and how they manipulate, especially newbies to any political movement, how it says in the COINTELPRO, in fact, print me that encyclopedia printout again on COINTELPRO, what their job is, what they try to do. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen,
is it getting better?
I get tied down here.
Or do you feel the same?
Making films.
Will it make it
writing books, doing YouTube videos, doing 4 hours of radio a day, 2, 3, 4 hours of research. Sometimes I don't sleep till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Sometimes I do 6, 7, 8 hours of research, reading government documents, knowing that we're accurate, knowing that we have so much proof it's incredible, studying history, experiencing things. I have experienced things that most people wouldn't experience as a activist leader. I remember trying to build a veteran a new house when they were going to bulldoze his old house. Actually, the citizens had the idea and spearheading it, and having COINTELPRO, we later learned, come on and try to start fights and break up the activists and just make stuff up about me. They understand human psychology. I remember being at Waco, building a memorial chapel there, and people coming in and threatening me and doing something, later reading their names years later as FBI informants. On December 8th, Aaron Dykes wrote an article off of NPR report and other media reports. Well, the imam called me. In fact, we had him on air when that Palestinian activist got all gut up and slit open and basically skinned, his arms tied, his legs tied, thrown into Lake Austin, thrown into the river. They call the river, the Colorado, they've dammed up Lake Austin. And the police said it was a suicide. And I talked to the imam. They said it certainly wasn't a suicide. And then to learn that the admitted FBI informant who'd been sent to Central America, South America, in his own words, who had been sent to Katrina, who had been in Austin trying to infiltrate 9/11 Truth and trying to get them to firebomb Brave New Books, which is a bookstore that one of my listeners founded that I've supported. I mean, that's, people need to know. But see, that's what the feds do. They go and call for violence and call for criminal activity and get everybody infighting to run everyone off. That's what they do. And they make up elaborate lies. I mean, I remember a decade ago, hal-Turner, people constantly emailing me, this guy's attacking you on his radio show, this guy's writing about you, this guy's going after you, this guy's saying you're a Zionist agent. And I'm like, Zionist agent? I mean, I'm a Baptist. I go to a Methodist church. That's where my parents go. I mean, I'm an American. And then I learned that a known Israeli diamond dealer brags about it, put out the story. I work for the Vatican. I mean, just completely made up. And when you experience this, it's not for Alex Jones. In a sick way, like P.T. Barnum said, just spell my name right. Most publicity is pretty darn good, except it's meant to turn people off who are awakening so they only infight with each other. And I remember all the COINTELPRO that was run against We Are Change in New York when it was first set up, when I first was supporting it, getting Luke on the air. He was by himself, and then he started getting a few supporters that came to help him, and they were trying to plant bombs on him. We got the video of that. They were trying to say he was a terrorist. We know you're not a terrorist, but we're going to set you up. It's all covered in Truth Rising. I remember when German Tallis, a great member of We Are Change, was protesting Laura Bush, and out of a alleyway comes a man with a girl in a wheelchair ramming him and hitting him, and all the witnesses saw it. But bookstore wouldn't give up the surveillance tape, and they took him to court. He was going to go to prison for years with felonies, and we supported him financially. It went to trial, and the Secret Service wouldn't lie. The APD did. The Secret Service said, no, none of that's true. They attacked him. And then the New York Post had to print a retraction. That was an attempted setup. That's what COINTELPRO does. It was an attempted setup of Luke over and over again. This is what they try to do. And we called out hal-turner a decade ago, only because he was attacking us, and we were very brief. We just said, no one is allowed to threaten federal judges. No one is allowed to call for violence every day unless they're a Fed. And the guy was hooked in with Sean Hannity and the neocons. We know Hannity is literally a CIA asset. It's come out CNN, Washington Post is CIA. And now it's come out in federal court, and the FBI is on record, and the U.S. attorney. He is the highest level FBI agent there is. They said national security level FBI agent, not a informant. They usually use ex-cons and people they've got under their control, and they use some ex-cons here locally against us. And when it's actually happening to you, it's hard to believe that it's really going on. It's hard to believe that it's actually happening. But again, and I'm going to Mark Dice here in a moment. He just brought this up, so I thought I'd talk about it. It's hard to believe until you've been doing this 14 years and it's been confirmed over and over and over and over again that this is the case. I wanted to read to you COINTELPRO, an acronym for Counterintelligence Program, was a series of covert, often illegal projects conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation aimed at investigating and disrupting dissident political organizations within the United States. The FBI used covert operations from its inception. However, formal COINTELPRO operations took place between 56 and 71. The FBI statement motivation at the time was protecting national security. They're now saying covering up AIG as national security, preventing violence, and maintaining the existing social and political order. According to FBI records, 85% of COINTELPRO resources were expended on infiltrating, disrupting, marginalizing, and/or subverting groups suspected of being subversive. And then you read into this, let me find the area where it says it, that they would go into nonviolent civil rights movement, including Martin Luther King and others. And it says the American Indian Movement and other civil rights groups, a broad range of organizations, New Left, including Students for Democratic Society, the National Lawyers Guild, on and on and on, anyone against the Vietnam War, and even in individual student demonstrations with no group affiliation. And then it talks about how, in the thousands of pages of documents, how they would do this is, and it's literally a textbook, and most of the people that are part of it don't even know. They're being led by a psychological warfare expert. And the Pentagon declassified a few years ago their 2004 manual for the third world. Anybody who's a leader, they say, they're making money because they don't ever want activists to ever get any capital to build anything real. You ought to be the leader. Or that person wants to take over what you're doing. Or go protest them at their protest. Or split off. And then it says in here, they have them go in and call for violence to then run off the reasonable members. That's what Cass Sunstein calls for in a new document, a year and a half old, and he's now in the White House and set to be the next Supreme Court justice when Stevens leaves at the end of the year, is he said, we will go into their groups, we covered this a few weeks ago, and we will pose as conspiracy theorists, we will pose as anti-government, anti-Federal Reserve, anti-global warming people, and we will get everybody fighting with each other, and then we will accuse those that we're setting up of being the ones that did it. And so that's why this is so important, because then they force you to even talk about it. So you have to educate people. And then that gets people more paranoid about going out, speaking out, being involved. Going back to Mark Dice, Mark getting into hal-Turner. We called him out over a decade ago. You've been calling him out in the last 3 years. Everything he put out was a hoax. Go ahead.